Chapter 1. The contract that haunted me. I never thought a piece of paper signed 3 years ago would destroy my life in 30 seconds. Standing at the altar of the grand ballroom, holding Emma's hand while 200 guests watched, I felt genuinely happy for the first time in years. Emma looked radiant in her engagement dress, her father Robert beaming with pride from the front row. My sister Sarah was already crying happy tears, and my best friend David was recording everything on his phone, probably planning some embarrassing best man speech. Then the ballroom doors exploded open. "Stop!" The voice cut through the classical music like a knife. Every head turned toward the entrance, where Bella Rodriguez stood in a red dress that screamed desperation. Behind her, looking furious and embarrassed, was Marcus Sterling, a man I recognized from business magazines as one of the city's most eligible bachelors. I felt my stomach drop to my shoes. "I can't let this happen," Bella announced, marching down the aisle like she owned the place. Emma's grip tightened on my hand, her confusion evident. "Alex, tell them," Bella demanded, reaching the altar. "Tell them about us." My mouth went dry. 3 years ago, when I was drowning in student loans and Bella needed a green card, we'd signed a marriage contract. Pure business. She'd pay me $50,000, we'd stay married on paper for 2 years, then quietly divorce. No emotions, no complications, no contact. I'd used the money to start my marketing firm, she'd gotten her citizenship, and we'd both moved on with our lives. Except we'd never actually filed the divorce papers. "Alex." Emma's voice was small, scared. "Who is this woman?" Bella grabbed the microphone from the officiant. "I'm Isabella Rodriguez, Chen," she announced to the stunned crowd. "Alex's wife of 3 years. The silence that followed was deafening. Emma dropped my hand like it was on fire. Sarah's mouth fell open. David immediately started calculating legal implications. I could see it in his expression. Robert Thompson, the retired judge, looked like he wanted to hold me in contempt of court. "That's impossible," Emma whispered, but her voice carried in the silence. Marcus stepped forward, his face a mask of controlled rage. "Bella, what are you doing? We discussed this. You said you were divorced." "I lied," Bella said simply, then turned back to me with tears in her eyes. "Alex, I'm sorry I disappeared. I'm sorry I never called. But I need you now." "Marcus, he's not who I thought he was." I stood there, frozen between my fake wife and my real fiancée. While 200 guests waited for an explanation I couldn't give without destroying everything I'd built. Emma was staring at me with a mixture of hurt and betrayal that cut deeper than any knife. "Is it true?" Emma asked quietly. "Are you married to her?" I looked at Bella's desperate face, then at Emma's breaking heart, then at the crowd of people whose respect I was about to lose forever. The smart move would be to deny everything, call Bella crazy, have security remove her. But something in her eyes, pure terror, made me hesitate. "Yes," I heard myself say. "Legally, yes. But Emma, I can explain." Emma pulled off her engagement ring and placed it carefully on the altar. "No need," she said with devastating calm. "I think I understand perfectly." She walked away, her head held high, while Lisa chased after her. The crowd erupted in whispers and shocked murmurs. Cameras flashed as people captured my humiliation for social media. Marcus grabbed Bella's arm roughly. "You just destroyed both our lives for what?" "Him." He looked at me with pure contempt. "Enjoy cleaning up this mess." As the guests filed out in confused clusters, I stood alone at the altar with the woman who just torpedoed my life, wondering how a forgotten contract had become my worst nightmare. Chapter 2. The truth behind the chaos. I dragged Bella to the venue's private office, away from the cameras and whispered gossip. My hands were shaking with rage, embarrassment, and something else I couldn't identify. She sat in the leather chair across from the desk, looking smaller somehow, like the adrenaline that had carried her through the ballroom had finally worn off. "Start talking," I demanded. "Right now." "What the hell was that?" Bella's composure cracked. "Marcus has been lying to me for months. About everything. About his feelings, about his intentions, about his family." She wiped her eyes, smearing her mascara. I found out yesterday that he's engaged to someone else. Some society princess his mother picked out. I was never anything more than his side piece. I stared at her, trying to process this. So you decided to ruin my engagement? What kind of logic is that? I panicked, she shouted, then lowered her voice when she realized how loud she'd been. I've been living in his penthouse, wearing his gifts, meeting his friends, thinking we had a future. Then I overheard him on the phone with his mother, laughing about his little immigrant girlfriend, and how he dumped me after the wedding season ended. My anger wavered slightly. I remembered the desperate woman who'd approached me 3 years ago, terrified of being deported back to a country where her ex-boyfriend had threatened to kill her. But that didn't excuse what she'd just done. That still doesn't explain why you destroyed my life, I said coldly. Because I remembered our contract, Bella said quietly. I remembered that technically, legally, I'm still married to you. And I thought maybe if Marcus believed I was really married, really unavailable, he'd fight for me. He'd choose me over his family's expectations. I laughed bitterly. How did that work out for you? It didn't. Fresh tears started falling. He called me pathetic and stormed out. Said I was delusional if I thought he'd ever choose me over his inheritance. The door opened and David walked in, his lawyer face firmly in place. Alex, we need to talk. Now. He glanced at Bella. Privately. Whatever you have to say, she can hear it, I said. She's apparently still my wife. David sighed and pulled out his phone. I've been doing damage control for the past hour. The story's already online. Marketing executive's secret wife crashes engagement party. It's trending on 3 platforms. My heart sank further. How bad is it? Bad. Your business partners are calling for meetings. Emma's father is threatening legal action for emotional distress. And he hesitated. There are photos of you and Bella from 3 years ago. Someone dug up the marriage certificate from public records. Bella looked stricken. I never meant for it to go this far. Well, congratulations, I said sarcastically. You've successfully destroyed both our reputations in one afternoon. David cleared his throat. There's more. I pulled the original contract. You two never filed the divorce papers, which means you're still legally married. But here's the interesting part. The contract has a clause about public disclosure. I frowned. What kind of clause? If either party reveals the marriage publicly without mutual consent, they forfeit any financial benefits and face a penalty of $200,000. Bella went pale. $200,000? I don't have that kind of money. You should have thought of that before you grabbed a microphone, David said unsympathetically. Alex, legally. You could sue her for breach of contract, defamation, and interference with your business relationships. I looked at Bella, who was now crying silently into her hands. Part of me wanted to make her pay for what she'd done. She'd humiliated me, cost me the woman I loved, and potentially damaged my business. But another part of me remembered why she'd been so desperate 3 years ago, and I could see that same desperation now. I need time to think, I said finally. Alex, Bella whispered. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, I replied, but my voice was gentler than before. David, can you give us a minute? After he left, I sat across from Bella, studying her face. Tell me the truth. All of it. Why did you really come here today? She took a shaky breath. Because I was scared, and you were the only person who ever helped me without wanting something in return. I hoped you might help me again. Chapter 3. The price of desperation. I spent the night in my office, avoiding the reporters camped outside my apartment building and the endless stream of calls from people wanting explanations I couldn't give. Sarah brought me coffee and a sandwich around midnight, her expression a mixture of concern and frustration. Emma won't take my calls, she said, settling into the chair across from my desk. Lisa says she's devastated. She really loved you, Alex. The words hit like a physical blow. I know. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're more concerned about your fake wife than your real fiancée. I looked up sharply. That's not fair. Isn't it? Sarah leaned forward. You could have denied everything yesterday, called Bella delusional, had security remove her. Instead, you confirmed her story in front of 200 people. Why? I couldn't answer because I didn't fully understand it myself. Something about Bella's terror had triggered my protective instincts, overriding my common sense. She was scared, I said finally. So was Emma, Sarah replied. But you chose to protect the woman who was destroying your life over the woman who loved you. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Marcus Sterling's name appeared on the screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. We need to talk, Marcus said without preamble. Meet me at the Ritz bar in an hour. I don't think that's a good idea. It wasn't a request, Marcus said coldly. 1 hour. He hung up before I could refuse. Sarah raised an eyebrow. The boyfriend? Ex-boyfriend, apparently. I grabbed my jacket. I'll be back in a few hours. Alex, Sarah called as I reached the door. Whatever he wants, don't let him manipulate you. You're not responsible for cleaning up their mess. The Ritz bar was nearly empty at 1 a.m., just a few late-night drinkers and business travelers. Marcus sat in a corner booth, nursing what looked like his third whiskey. He was still handsome in that polished, wealthy way, but up close I could see the cracks in his perfect facade. Sit, he said without looking up. I remained standing. What do you want, Marcus? He finally met my eyes, and I was surprised by the genuine pain I saw there. I want you to take her back. Excuse me? Bella, take her back. Play the devoted husband, work things out, whatever. Just get her away from me. I stared at him. You're asking me to stay married to your ex-girlfriend? I'm asking you to save both our lives, Marcus said desperately. My mother is furious about yesterday's spectacle. She's threatening to cut me off completely if I don't handle the situation. My engagement to Caroline is hanging by a thread. And Bella he took another drink. She's been calling me non-stop, begging me to take her back. So take her back, I said. Marcus laughed bitterly. You don't understand. My family would never accept her. She's not our kind of people, no money, no connections, no proper breeding. She was fun for a while, but she was never marriage material. The casual cruelty in his voice made my jaw clench. Then why are you here? Because she's obsessed with me now. She thinks what happened yesterday proved we're meant to be together, that I'll choose love over family expectations. She's delusional. He leaned forward. But she'd listen to you. You're her husband, legally. You have power over her that I don't. What exactly are you asking me to do? Convince her to disappear. Take her somewhere far away, start fresh. I'll pay for everything, relocation costs, living expenses, whatever it takes. Just make her understand that we're over. I felt sick. You want me to buy your ex-girlfriend like she's property. I want you to help her move on, Marcus corrected. Look, I know you think I'm the villain here, but I never promised her forever. She created this fantasy in her head, and now she can't let go. You'd actually be doing her a favor. I stood up to leave. Find someone else to clean up your mess. Wait. Marcus pulled out an envelope. There's more. Information you need to know about your precious Bella. She's not the innocent victim she pretends to be. Despite myself, I hesitated. What do you mean? Marcus smiled coldly. Sit down, and I'll tell you exactly who you married. Chapter 4. The woman I never knew. I sat back down, hating myself for taking the bait but needing to know what Marcus meant. He slid the envelope across the table, his expression smug. Open it, he said. Inside were photographs, bank statements, and what looked like private investigator reports. The photos showed Bella at expensive restaurants, shopping at luxury boutiques, getting out of Marcus's sports car. The bank statements showed large cash deposits into her account, amounts that made my $50,000 contract payment look like pocket change. She's been playing you from the beginning, Marcus said, watching my face. The desperate immigrant story, the abusive ex-boyfriend, needing a green card, all lies. She's been in the country legally since she was 12. Her father James owns 3 successful restaurants in Miami. I stared at the documents, trying to process what I was seeing. This doesn't make sense. Why would she need a fake marriage if she was already legal? Because she wanted to disappear from her family, Marcus explained. They cut her off 2 years before she met you. She'd been living with some drug dealer in Miami, using their money to fund her lifestyle. When that relationship went south, she needed a new identity, a fresh start. The marriage to you gave her a legal name change and a clean background check. My hands were shaking as I flipped through the papers. How do you know all this? I had her investigated when we started getting serious. I needed to know who I was dealing with. Marcus leaned back, satisfied with my reaction. She's a professional victim, Alex. She finds successful men, creates sob stories to manipulate them, then bleeds them dry. You were just her first mark. I thought about Bella's tears yesterday, her apparent terror, her desperate plea for help. Had it all been an act? There's more, Marcus continued. The reason she really crashed your engagement wasn't because I dumped her. It's because she found out about my real net worth. My trust fund doesn't kick in until I'm married to someone my family approves of. She thought if she could force me to choose between her and my inheritance, I'd pick her. But you didn't. Of course not. I'm not an idiot. Marcus finished his drink. But she is, apparently. She actually believed her little stunt would work. I closed the envelope, my mind reeling. Why are you showing me this? Because I need you to understand what you're dealing with. She's not going to just disappear quietly. She's going to keep pushing, keep manipulating, keep causing problems for both of us until someone stops her. And you think that someone should be me? You're her husband, Marcus said simply. You have legal authority over her. You could have her committed for a psychiatric evaluation, claim she's having a breakdown. Keep her locked up long enough for the media attention to die down. The suggestion made my stomach turn. You're talking about having an innocent woman institutionalized. Innocent? Marcus laughed. Did you not just see the evidence? She's a con artist, Alex. She's been lying to you for 3 years. I stood up again, this time determined to leave. Even if everything you're saying is true, I'm not going to destroy someone's life to make yours easier. Then you're a fool, Marcus called after me. She'll destroy yours instead. I walked out of the bar with the envelope clutched in my hand, my mind spinning with questions and doubts. Was everything Bella had told me a lie? Had I been played by a professional manipulator? By the time I got back to my office, it was nearly 3 a.m. I spread the documents across my desk, studying them under the harsh fluorescent lights. The evidence was damning, but something about it felt wrong. Too convenient, too perfectly timed. I called David, knowing he'd still be awake. He was a night owl by nature and a workaholic by choice. I need you to verify some information, I said when he answered. And I need you to do it quietly. What kind of information? I looked at the photos of Bella laughing in expensive restaurants, seemingly without a care in the world. I need to know if the woman I married is who she says she is. Alex, David said carefully. What's going on? I'm starting to think I don't know anything about anyone anymore. Chapter 5. Digging for truth. David arrived at my office an hour later with Grace Park, his law partner who specialized in family cases and had connections throughout the immigration system. Grace was sharp, thorough, and had a reputation for uncovering information that others missed. Show me what you have, Grace said, settling at the conference table. I spread out Marcus's envelope while David made coffee. Grace studied the documents with the focused intensity of a surgeon, occasionally making notes on her legal pad. This is professional work, she said finally. High-end private investigator, probably cost $15,000 or more. But there are some inconsistencies. What kind of inconsistencies? I asked. Grace pointed to one of the bank statements. These deposits are large, yes, but they're not regular. Look at the dates, they correspond with major holidays and birthdays. These look more like family gifts than payments for services. David leaned over her shoulder. What about the restaurant ownership claim? That's easy enough to verify. Grace pulled out her laptop and started typing. James Rodriguez, here we go. Yes, he owns 3 restaurants in Miami, but she frowned. According to these records, He also has a daughter named Isabella who he reported as a missing person 2.5 years ago. My heart skipped. Missing person? Filed a report claiming she'd been kidnapped by an abusive boyfriend, possibly being held against her will. The case is still technically open. Grace looked up at me. Alex, if this is the same Isabella, then her story about fleeing an abusive relationship might be true. I felt a mixture of relief and confusion. But what about the legal status issue? Marcus said she'd been in the country legally since she was 12. Grace typed some more. Isabella Rodriguez was granted permanent residency at age 12 through her father's business visa. But she paused, reading carefully. There's a notation here about a legal name change request that was denied 6 months before your marriage. She was trying to change her name from Isabella Rodriguez to Isabella Santos. Why would she want to change her name? David asked. Usually to hide from someone, Grace replied. Santos was probably her mother's maiden name. If she was running from an abusive boyfriend, changing her name would make her harder to track. I remembered Bella's desperation 3 years ago, how she'd flinched when I'd asked for her full legal name. So the marriage wasn't about immigration status. It was about getting a legal name change. Exactly. Marriage is one of the few ways to change your name without going through the courts, where records are public and searchable. David sat down heavily. So Marcus was lying about her motivations. Or he was fed false information by his investigator, Grace suggested. These reports focus heavily on her lifestyle and spending but completely ignore the missing person case. That's a red flag. I stared at the documents, seeing them in a new light. What about the photos? She looks happy, not like someone running for her life. Abusive relationships are complicated, Grace said gently. Victims often have periods where they seem happy, especially if their abuser is love-bombing them or they're trying to maintain a facade of normalcy. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I know you're investigating me. We need to talk. Please. I showed the message to David and Grace. How would she know? Marcus probably told her, David said grimly. He might be trying to force a confrontation. Grace closed her laptop. Alex, I think you need to hear her side of the story. But do it safely, in a public place with witnesses. I'll come with you, David offered. I thought about Bella's tears yesterday, her genuine terror when Marcus had grabbed her arm. Whether she'd lied about some things or not, her fear had been real. No, I said finally. This conversation needs to be just between us. But I want you both on standby in case something goes wrong. Grace handed me her card. Call me immediately after you talk to her. And Alex, record the conversation if you can. If this situation gets uglier, we'll need documentation. As they left, I sat alone in my office, staring at the evidence of a life I'd never really understood. In a few hours, I'd meet with the woman who'd crashed my engagement and potentially saved my life from a marriage built on business rather than love. The question was, who was Isabella Rodriguez really, and why did I suddenly care so much about the answer? Chapter 6. The real Isabella first met Bella at a small cafe downtown, the kind of place where the noise level would mask our conversation but the open layout would keep things from getting too intense. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with her hands wrapped around a coffee cup like it was an anchor. She looked different, smaller, more vulnerable. The red dress from yesterday had been replaced with jeans and a simple sweater. Without the dramatic makeup, I could see the exhaustion in her face, the dark circles under her eyes. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat down across from her. I almost didn't. I placed my phone on the table between us, recording app already running. "I need the truth, Bella. All of it. No more games. No more manipulation." She nodded, her eyes fixed on the coffee cup. "I know Marcus showed you his file on me. How do you?" "Because he called me this morning, gloating about it. He thinks he's destroyed any chance of you helping me." She finally looked up, and I was surprised by the anger I saw there. "He's not wrong about everything, Alex. I did lie to you 3 years ago, but not about the important things. Start from the beginning," I said. Bella took a shaky breath. My real name is Isabella Rodriguez Santos. Santos was my mother's name. She died when I was 15. My father James and I had a good relationship until I turned 18 and started dating Carlos Mendez. The name meant nothing to me, but the way she said it made my skin crawl. Carlos was charming at first. Older, sophisticated, wealthy. He showered me with gifts, took me to expensive places, made me feel special. My father hated him from the start, said he was dangerous, but I thought Dad was just being overprotective. She paused to sip her coffee, her hands trembling slightly. It took me 2 years to realize my father was right. Carlos was involved in money laundering, drug trafficking, worse things. But by then, he'd isolated me from my family, convinced me that they'd rejected me, that he was all I had. I thought about the photos Marcus had shown me. Bella laughing at expensive restaurants, looking carefree and happy. The lifestyle Marcus documented was a prison, Bella finished. Carlos controlled everything, where I went, who I talked to, what I wore. Those photos were taken during his good moods, when he wanted to show me off to his associates. What they don't show are the bruises I covered with makeup, or the nights I spent locked in his apartment while he conducted business. My chest tightened. How did you get away? I didn't at first. When I tried to leave, he threatened to kill my father, burn down his restaurants. He had connections everywhere, police, judges, immigration officials. I was trapped. But you did leave eventually. Bella nodded. Carlos got arrested on federal charges 2.5 years ago. I thought I was free, but his associates started looking for me. They thought I might testify against him, or that I knew where he'd hidden money. I had to disappear completely. So you came to me for a name change. Yes, I'd been Isabella Santos for 2 years, but it wasn't legal. Carlos had made me use his connections to get fake documents. When he was arrested, those documents became dangerous. They connected me to his organization. I needed a legal name change, but the court process would have created public records that his people could track. I studied her face, looking for signs of deception. Why didn't you just tell me the truth? Because I was terrified, she said simply. You were the successful, honest businessman, and I was a criminal's ex-girlfriend with fake papers and no money. I thought if you knew the real story, you'd never help me. So you made up the immigration story. I exaggerated my legal problems, yes, but I never lied about being scared or about needing to disappear. The $50,000 you were supposed to get? I was planning to pay it with money I'd saved from the allowance Carlos gave me. Blood money, essentially. She reached into her purse and pulled out a bank envelope. I never forgot about our deal, Alex. Even after Marcus, even after everything, I was going to pay you. Inside the envelope was a cashier's check for $50,000, dated yesterday. I went to the bank right before your engagement party, she said quietly. I was going to give this to you and ask for the divorce papers. But then I saw Marcus with Caroline, heard him laughing about me with his friends, and I just broke. Chapter 7. The choice between justice and mercy. I stared at the check, my mind reeling. Everything I thought I knew about Bella, about our arrangement, about yesterday's disaster was shifting like sand beneath my feet. You were going to pay me and divorce me quietly, I said slowly. Then why did you crash my engagement? Bella's composure finally cracked. Because I'm an idiot, she said, tears starting to fall. Because I saw Marcus with his real fiancée, this perfect blonde socialite, and I realized he'd been playing me for months. I felt so stupid, so used, and then I remembered that I had one card left to play. Our marriage. I thought if I made a big enough scene, if I forced him to choose publicly between me and his family's approval, maybe he'd realize he actually loved me. She wiped her eyes with a napkin. Instead, he called me pathetic and walked away. I thought about Marcus's cold dismissal yesterday, the casual cruelty in his voice when he talked about Bella not being their kind of people. And now you're stuck, I observed. Now I'm destroyed, Bella corrected. The media attention means Carlos's associates will find me within days. My father has been calling non-stop since yesterday. Apparently the story made national news. Marcus is threatening to sue me for harassment. And you dash? She looked at me with genuine remorse. I ruined your life for nothing. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. I saw the news coverage. We need to talk. My heart jumped. Emma wants to see me. That's good, Bella said, though she looked miserable. You should go to her. Explain everything. Maybe you can still fix this. I studied her face. This woman who'd been a stranger, then a contract, then a crisis, and now something I couldn't quite define. What about you? What happens when I leave here? I disappear again, she said simply. Find a new city, a new identity. Hope Carlos's people don't catch up with me. That's not a life, Bella. That's just survival. She shrugged. It's more than I deserve after what I did to you. I made a decision that surprised even me. No, I'm not letting you run again. Alex, listen to me, I interrupted. Marcus is right about one thing. I do have legal authority as your husband. But I'm not going to use it to hurt you. I'm going to use it to protect you. Bella stared at me. What do you mean? I mean, we're going to do this right. We're going to get you into witness protection, testify against Carlos if necessary, and make sure you're safe. Then, when it's over, we'll get divorced properly and you can have your life back. Why would you help me after what I did? I thought about Emma's hurt face, about the wreckage of my engagement, about the media circus that was probably still camped outside my apartment. Because 3 years ago you were desperate and I helped you. Yesterday you were desperate again, and you made a terrible choice. But that doesn't make you a terrible person. Bella started crying again, but these were different tears. Relief mixed with gratitude. I don't deserve your kindness. Maybe not, I agreed. But you deserve to be safe. And you deserve a chance to make things right. I called David and put him on speaker. I need you to contact the FBI. Bella's willing to testify against Carlos Mendez in exchange for witness protection. Are you sure about this? David asked. This is going to complicate everything. I'm sure. I looked at Bella, who was nodding through her tears. And David? I need you to set up a meeting with Emma. Tell her I'll explain everything. But I need her to hear it from me. After I hung up, Bella reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me yet, I said. This is going to get complicated before it gets better. The media, the FBI investigation, Carlos's trial. It could take months or years. I know, she squeezed harder. But for the first time in 3 years, I feel like I might actually survive this. As we left the cafe together, I realized that somewhere between the engagement disaster and this moment, Bella had stopped being my fake wife and started being my responsibility. Whether that was smart or stupid remained to be seen. Chapter 8. Emma's ultimatum. Emma agreed to meet me at her apartment that evening. When she opened the door, I was struck by how composed she looked. No tears, no anger, just a calm sadness that somehow hurt worse than screaming would have. Come in, she said quietly. Her apartment was exactly as I remembered, warm, organized, filled with the architectural drawings and design books that reflected her passion for creating beautiful spaces. We sat on opposite ends of her couch, the distance between us feeling like a canyon. I've been thinking all day, Emma said without preamble. About us, about what happened, about what I want to do next. Emma, I need to explain. Let me go first, she interrupted gently. Please. I nodded, my heart hammering against my ribs. When that woman, Bella, announced she was your wife, my first instinct was to hate her, to blame her for destroying our engagement, our future, everything we'd planned together. Emma's voice was steady, controlled. But then I realized something. She didn't destroy us, Alex. We were already broken. What do you mean? I mean, you've been keeping secrets from me for 3 years. Not just about the marriage, but about who you are, what you're capable of, what you value. She turned to face me fully. The man I fell in love with wouldn't have been able to keep something this big hidden for so long. Which means either I never really knew you, or you've been pretending to be someone else. The accusation hit like a physical blow. That's not fair. The contract marriage was over. It didn't mean anything, didn't it? Emma's calm facade cracked slightly. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like it meant enough for you to protect her yesterday instead of me. I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it. She wasn't wrong. Tell me about her, Emma continued. Tell me why you helped her 3 years ago, and why you're still helping her now. So I did. I told her everything: Bella's abusive relationship, the witness protection situation, Carlos's criminal organization, the death threats. I explained about the fake papers, the name change, the desperate woman who'd walked into my office 3 years ago with bruises she tried to hide under makeup. Emma listened without interrupting, her expression unreadable. She was in danger, I finished. Real, immediate danger. I couldn't just abandon her. Even though helping her meant losing me, the question hung in the air between us. I wanted to say no, to promise that I'd choose Emma every time, but the words wouldn't come. Because the truth was, when I'd seen Bella's terror yesterday, my protective instincts had overridden everything else. I see, Emma said quietly, reading my silence correctly. Emma, I love you. I know you do, she interrupted. But you love her too, don't you? The question caught me off guard. It's not like that. We're not dash. You don't have to be sleeping with someone to love them, Alex. You can love someone because they need you, because you feel responsible for them, because you see yourself as their protector. Emma's voice was sad but not bitter. The question is whether that kind of love leaves room for any other kind. I stared at her, unable to answer because I wasn't sure myself. Emma stood up and walked to her window, looking out at the city lights. I've made a decision, she said without turning around. I'm not going to fight for you, Emma. I'm not going to compete with your fake wife for your attention. I'm not going to spend our relationship wondering if the next crisis will make you choose her over me again. She finally turned back to me. I deserve better than that. She was right, and we both knew it. I'm sorry, I said, the words feeling inadequate. I'm so sorry. I know you are. Emma walked back to the couch and sat down, taking my hands in hers. And I forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't mean I'm willing to accept this situation. What are you saying? I'm saying goodbye, Alex. Clean, honest goodbye. No drama. No public scenes. No trying to make each other miserable. She squeezed my hands. You're a good man who made an impossible choice. I just can't live with the consequences of that choice. As I walked back to my car an hour later, I realized that Emma was probably the best thing that had ever happened to me, and I'd lost her to save someone who might never be more than a beautiful disaster. Chapter 9. The trial that changed everything. 6 months later, I sat in a federal courthouse watching Bella testify against Carlos Mendez. The woman on the witness stand bore little resemblance to the desperate person who'd crashed my engagement. She was composed, articulate, devastating in her calm recitation of Carlos's crimes. He told me that if I ever tried to leave, he'd kill my father and make it look like an accident, Bella said, her voice steady. He showed me photos of other women who had disappointed him. I believed him completely. The defense attorney tried to rattle her, suggesting she'd been a willing participant in Carlos's criminal enterprise, but Bella never wavered. She answered every question with quiet dignity, never defensive, never angry, just truthful. During a recess, I found her in the hallway with Miguel, her younger brother who'd flown in from Miami to support her. The family reunion had been emotional. James Rodriguez had cried when he saw his daughter for the first time in 3 years, and even Miguel, who'd initially been angry about her disappearance, had softened when he understood what she'd been through. How are you holding up? I asked. Better than I expected, Bella admitted. It feels good to finally tell the truth about everything. Miguel studied me with the protective intensity of a younger brother. You're the fake husband? Miguel, Bella warned. No, it's okay, I said. Yes, I'm the fake husband, though technically, we're still legally married until the divorce is finalized. Thank you, Miguel said simply, for protecting her when we couldn't. The sincerity in his voice caught me off guard. Over the past 6 months, as Bella had prepared for trial and reconnected with her family, I'd gotten to know the real Isabella Rodriguez Santos. She was funny, intelligent, fiercely loyal to the people she loved. She was also damaged in ways that might take years to heal, but she was trying. We'd maintained separate apartments during the trial. The FBI had insisted on it for security reasons, but we'd fallen into an odd friendship. She cooked dinner for me when I worked late. I helped her study for her GED, which she'd never finished because of Carlos. We watched terrible movies and argued about books and slowly learned to trust each other. It wasn't romantic. We were both too aware of the complicated circumstances that had brought us together. But it was real in a way that surprised both of us. "The jury's coming back," David announced, appearing in the hallway. He'd been my rock through everything: the media circus, the FBI interviews, the slow process of rebuilding my business reputation. We filed back into the courtroom. Carlos sat at the defense table, still handsome in his expensive suit. But I could see the desperation in his eyes. His organization had crumbled during the investigation. His associates had turned on him to save themselves, and the evidence against him was overwhelming. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" the judge asked. "We have, Your Honor. Guilty on all counts. Money laundering, racketeering, conspiracy, witness intimidation." The judge sentenced him to 25 years in federal prison. Bella didn't react when the verdict was read, but I saw her shoulders relax for the first time in months. As Carlos was led away in handcuffs, he turned to look at her one last time. The hatred in his eyes was chilling, but it couldn't touch her anymore. Outside the courthouse, James Rodriguez hugged his daughter tightly. "It's over, Mija. You're free." "We're all free," Bella corrected, looking at me. "Alex, I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to thank me," I said. "You did the hard part. You survived, you testified, you got justice." "What happens now?" Miguel asked. Bella and I exchanged glances. We'd talked about this moment for weeks, but neither of us had been ready to make decisions until the trial was over. "Now we figure out what comes next," I said. That evening, Bella and I sat on my apartment balcony, sharing a bottle of wine and watching the sunset. The divorce papers were on the coffee table behind us, ready to be signed. "Are you ready?" I asked. She picked up the papers, then set them down again. "Can I ask you something first?" "Anything. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd met under different circumstances?" I considered the question carefully. Every day. Chapter 10. The choice I never expected to make 1 year after the trial. I found myself standing in another ballroom, but this time everything was different. Bella wore a simple white dress that she'd chosen herself, her hair loose around her shoulders, her smile genuine and unforced. There were no cameras, no reporters, no unwanted guests. Just family and friends who'd supported us through the chaos. "Are you sure about this?" David asked, straightening my tie. He was my best man again, though this time his legal expertise wasn't required to untangle complicated contracts. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," I said, and meant it. The path to this moment hadn't been straight or simple. After Carlos's conviction, Bella and I had tried to return to our separate lives. She'd moved back to Miami to reconnect with her family and finish her education. I'd stayed in the city, rebuilding my business and trying to convince myself that our friendship was enough. It had lasted exactly 3 months. "I miss you," she'd said during one of our nightly phone calls. "Not as a protector or a fake husband, but as you, as Alex." "I miss you too," I'd admitted. "More than I thought possible." The long-distance relationship that followed had been different from anything either of us had experienced before. We'd built it slowly, carefully, on a foundation of honesty rather than desperation. Bella had insisted on therapy to work through her trauma from Carlos. I'd done my own work to understand why I'd been drawn to relationships based on duty rather than desire. "I need to know you're choosing me because you want me, not because you feel responsible for me," she'd said during one of her visits north. "I need to know you're choosing me because you love me, not because I'm safe," I'd replied. It had taken months of difficult conversations, false starts, and gradual trust building. But somewhere along the way, the fake marriage had transformed into something neither of us had expected. Real love. Emma had been one of the first people I'd told about our engagement. She'd remarried 6 months earlier. A fellow architect who shared her passion for sustainable design and her belief that love should be uncomplicated. "I'm happy for you," she'd said, and I could tell she meant it. "You both deserve a chance at real happiness." Now, as I watched Bella walk down the aisle on her father's arm, I thought about the journey that had brought us here, the fake contract that had saved her life, the public disaster that had revealed our hearts, the trial that had freed us both from the past. "You look nervous," Bella said when she reached the altar, her eyes sparkling with amusement. "Terrified," I admitted. "What if I mess this up?" "Then we'll figure it out together," she said simply. That's what real partners do. The ceremony was everything our first wedding hadn't been: meaningful, honest, chosen rather than contracted. When we exchanged vows, I spoke from my heart about second chances and the difference between saving someone and loving them. Bella talked about the courage it takes to trust again and the beauty of building something real from the ashes of something fake. "You may kiss the bride," the officiant announced. This time, when I kissed my wife, it was because I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her, not because a contract required it. At the reception, Sarah gave a toast that had everyone laughing and crying. 3 years ago, my brother signed a piece of paper that he thought would help a stranger and earn him some money. Instead, he found his soulmate. Sometimes the best things in life come disguised as the worst mistakes. Later, as Bella and I danced to our first song as a real married couple, she whispered, "Do you ever regret it? The fake marriage, the disaster, all of it." I thought about Emma, about the life I'd planned that had been so safe and predictable. Then I looked at the woman in my arms. Complicated, brave, real in ways that still took my breath away. "Never," I said. "Not for a second." "Good," she said, smiling against my neck. "Because I have a confession to make." "What's that?" "I think I started falling for you 3 years ago, the day you agreed to help a stranger without asking for anything in return. I was just too scared to admit it." I pulled her closer, marveling at how a fake marriage had led to the most real love I'd ever known.